Hi Hoxes, I'm back! I had an amazing holiday in Bali and I'm fully charged to get to work again. Today's video is all about improving your music production. I'm going to give you 10 tips on how to improve your production skills. But before I'm going to do that, I want to ask you something. Could you be so kind to subscribe to my channel and leave a like on this video? I make videos about music production and about my DJ career every week, and it would mean the world to me if you do so. So thank you. So here are 10 tips to improve your music production. Number 1, learn how to read metering. If you don't have a big studio, try to understand metering. Compare tracks, see how the professional tracks look in that metering, and then you see how they should sound, if that makes sense. Back in the day, when I didn't have this studio, I was making my music on my headphones. But because I did that on my headphones, I didn't know if the bass or the low end was powerful enough. So I learned to use Span, Total Balance Control, and Sub Ninja. And those meterings are really good to understand why a track sounds like that. And to be honest, I still use a Total Balance Control and Sub Ninja to this day. The reason for this is that sometimes if you have a track and it doesn't really sound right, I'm looking into the metering and see, oh, maybe I should push the low end a little bit more, or maybe I should push the mid a bit more. It depends a little bit on what I see on the metering. For instance, I use Total Balance Control after my masters, and I use Sub Ninja to see if my bassline works. Number 2, remake stuff. This is one of those things that people sleep on. If you want to improve your production technique, learn how to remake the professional tracks. I've learned how to make music by remaking stuff of the big DJs. The reason for this is that when you remake something, you can easily hear what you are doing wrong, and you can pinpoint what is missing in the track. That could be sound design wise, the way of the mix down, the effects they use, maybe the FXs they have. I could go on and on. Number 3, use bus channels. I cannot stress this out enough, and I've said this many videos before. The reason why my music sounds clean or mixed properly is because I use bus channels. Bus channels are an easy way to mix down a lot of elements like one element. For example, when I have a bass line, I treat the individual sounds first, and then I make sure that they go through a bus channel. If you use a multiband compressor and a clipper, it will sound like one thing. This is how it sounds if it's not treated in a bus channel. It's a little bit all over the place. It does sound like there's a different kind of sound every time. But if it goes through that bus channel, it sounds like this. You can hear there's much more control in there. So that's why you use a bus channel. Number 4, use loops. Every time I say this, people say this is cheating. But to be honest, I really don't know why people hate loops so much. For me, most of the time, you will fix your whole beat. It just makes your beat sound more professional. A beat can be sounding pretty simple. And with the right loops and the right sound, it will fill up that simple beat. And I can say this to you, it will sound much and much better. Just listen to this without the loops. Sounds pretty okay. But now with the loops turned on one by one. It just fills it up so much more. Number 5, use distortion and saturation. People underestimate the power of distortion and saturation. If you get the feedback that your track is empty or it lacks something, try to use distortion or saturation. Most of the times, if you use distortion or saturation, your track will sound fuller. It just fills up the frequency spectrum. If you use extra things to fill up things, it's difficult to mix that down, and sometimes it will make your track more chaotic. And that's not what you want. If you have less things in your mix, then it's much easier to mix it down. Let me show you the track without saturation. This is with distortion and saturation. You hear the difference, right? It's really minimal, but it really changed a lot. Number 6, cut the low end from every element. The only elements that need low end are the bass line and the kick. If you have a beat, if you have a main synth, always cut the low end in there. Otherwise, it will collide with your bass line and your track will sound muddy. And of course, that's not what we want. Therefore, it's much easier to master your tracks as well, by the way. Number 7, FXs make your track sound professional. I'm going to show you 2 things. Listen to this break and beat. If I mute those FXs, the track will sound empty. The transitions don't work anymore. It feels repetitive as well. Listen to this. You can hear that difference, right? It's really lacking something. And an FX makes your track sound much more professional. The rule of thumb with FXs is that you need one at the end of every 2 or 4 bars, depending on what kind of genre you make. Number 8, listen to your track on different speakers. Sometimes your track sounds impressive on your studio speakers, but it doesn't sound great on your phone speakers or your AirPods. Know that people who listen to your tracks listen to it on shitty speakers. And that's a different sound system than the speakers you have in your studio. I always try to use 3 different speaker tests. I use my speakers in my studio, I use my headphone, and I use the speakers of my mobile phone. If the track sounds great on all those speakers, I release it. Otherwise, it needs more time in the oven. Number 9. Ask for feedback. I think it's really important to get feedback from people. Gather producers around you, but also people that aren't producing music. I also do this, and I think it's even more important to listen what the people say that don't make music, because those are the people who will listen to your music. Also, producers really give great feedback if you are struggling with getting the right mix down. Also, if you want feedback from me, I give feedback in my Discord every Monday, so join the Discord link over here. Number 10. Finish a lot of tracks. Study shows that quantity always wins from quality. If you finish a lot of tracks, so quantity, you will eventually learn how to create quality in your tracks. Because if you focus too much on quality, you will never finish a track. And this may sound strange, but finishing a track is never about finishing a track. It's about releasing a track, putting your stuff up there, online. You need to know a track is never finished. There's always something that could be better. And if you never put out a track, nobody will notice you because there's nothing to notice. I use this technique to finish my tracks. It's called 3 weeks to compose and 1 week to define. Basically, what I do is in the first 3 weeks of the month, I try to compose ideas. And that's the most fun part of music production, I think. Then I limit my time to 1 week at the end of the month to finish the tracks that I like. After I finish that track in that week, I don't touch it anymore. Or if a label says I need to tweak something, of course I do that, but you get the point. So that were my 10 tips to improve your production skills. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you will improve your production skills. Please pre-save Soltara because it's getting released on this Friday. I will put a link in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to leave a like, and I will see you next week. Bye bye!
You need to subscribe to Tim Hawks on YouTube, or you're going to die.